Now I want to describe to you transform plate boundaries, and I'm going to use the western part of the United States as an example. I think transforms are some of the harder plate boundaries to understand. In this case, make sure that you understand this map. These red lines, like the Explorer Ridge, the Juan de Fuca Ridge, these red lines here, and these little red lines here, these are divergent plate boundaries, okay? So these are actually like the mid-ocean ridge. This is places where the crust is pulling apart. Um, these things called fracture zones, like the Blanco fracture zone, this flat fracture zone here, Mendocino fracture zone. Uh, these are the transform boundaries. Okay. So if I was going to notice first off also that we have a subduction zone up here. That's what makes the Cascade volcanoes like Mount St. Helens and Crater Lake and things of that sort. So that's why we have volcanism up here, but we don't down in California because we don't have a subducting slab going down. This little plate is being subducted. But notice what's happening here. We have these spreading ridges and they're offset by these fracture zones. So if I was going to draw this really simply, what's happening here, here's the Juan de Fuca spreading ridge like this, and it's spreading apart like this. And then there is this fracture zone that comes off like this. There's a little spreading center right here, and it's spreading like this. And then we have this big Mendocino fracture zone, and it goes all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. And then we have a whole bunch of little spreading centers down in the Gulf of Mexico that actually are responsible for making the Gulf of Mexico, not the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of California, I'm sorry, basically spread apart. So one of the ways to think about the San Andreas Fault, this big, long transform boundary, is that this side of the plate is moving that way, as you can see from that spreading center. This side of the plate is moving this way. And so what we get is a right lateral sense of motion, where if I'm standing on this plate looking this way, that plate's moving to the right. And if I stand on this plate looking this way, that plate's moving to the right. So this is the San Andreas Fault right here. And it's a big, basically it's just an offset chunk of two chunks of divergent plates. So that's kind of the simplified version of transforms. But this is also a little right lateral transform boundary here, and there's a bunch of small ones in here. So essentially, transform margins are places that offset divergent plate boundaries. Get a lot of earthquake activity, but not very much in the way of volcanic activity.